Hello and welcome to Mon Life Learning's film, A Fair Share for All, Rationing in World War II. Let's take a look at the items on this table. What can you see? What do you think all these food items have in common? Yes, that's right, they were all rationed during World War II. So why was rationing necessary? Well, before the war, Britain imported up to 70% of its food from other countries. This food was mainly brought into the country by ship. It was soon realised that Hitler would target these ships to try and stop food from getting into Britain. The country would starve. To make sure that every person in Britain could have a fair share of what food was available, the government introduced food rationing in January 1940. Just 4 months after the war began, bacon, butter and sugar were put on the ration. Other foods followed as they became more difficult to get hold of. What you see here is a week's ration for one person in about 1942. Each person was typically allowed 4 ounces of bacon or ham, a small piece of meat that cost no more than 6p, 2 ounces of butter, 2 ounces of cheese, 4 ounces of margarine, 4 ounces of lard, 3 pints of milk, 8 ounces of sugar, 2 ounces of tea, 1 fresh egg. To make sure you didn't get more than your fair share, everyone in Britain was given a ration book, even the King and Queen. Unlike today, where you can go to the supermarket and buy pretty much everything you need, in the 1940s, food shopping was very different. People used to go to individual shops, like a baker's for bread, a butcher's for meat, a greengrocer's for fruit and vegetables, and a grocer's for things like biscuits, tinned goods and sweets. During World War II, shops were only given enough food to be shared out among the people who were registered with them. When you received your ration book, you had to go and register with the butcher, the grocer, etc. From then on, you could only buy food from that particular shop. When you went to buy your food, let's say some cheese, you had to hand over your ration book to the shopkeeper. They would cross out a section in the book for that week's cheese ration. Once you had received your cheese ration, you could not have another piece of cheese until the next week. Oh, and you had to pay for it too. Rationing didn't mean free food. As well as the food items already mentioned, you could have a pound of jam every 8 weeks and 12 ounces of sweets every 4 weeks. It's not much, is it? Wartime was hard if you had a sweet tooth. But not everything was on the ration. You could still buy tinned fruit like peaches and tinned meat such as spam. Bread wasn't rationed during the war, and neither were fruit and vegetables. People were also encouraged to dig for victory and grow their own fruit and veg. Perhaps people who lived in the countryside were luckier when it came to food in wartime. Some people kept chickens or a pig, and if you lived near to a dairy farm, you could always get fresh milk. Some people used the milk to make butter or cheese in a churn like this one. Milk and eggs were very important in wartime cooking. There were no ready meals, everything had to be cooked from scratch, so people were given extra in the form of dried milk and dried egg. If you mixed the dried milk powder with water, you ended up with 4 pints of milk. A tin of dried egg was the equivalent of 12 fresh eggs. Dried egg was so widely used in wartime that the government's Ministry of Food produced a leaflet about it. This leaflet tells you how to make cakes, scrambled egg and even Yorkshire puddings using dried egg. Because of rationing and food shortages, people became quite inventive with food during World War II. Here we have some mashed potato, margarine, sugar and cocoa powder. When they are mashed together, they create mock chocolate spread. And people used food in other ingenious ways too, when things like makeup and clothing were in short supply. Did you know that some women used beetroot juice as lipstick and gravy browning to add colour to their legs, sort of like fake tan or fake stockings? When the war came to an end in 1945, you might think that food rationing ended too, but it didn't. It would be another 9 years, 1954, before all foods finally came off the ration. Can you imagine having your food rationed for 14 years? It's time for me to say goodbye now, but before I do, here's an idea. Why not try finding some other World War II mock recipes, making them up and seeing if your classmates can guess what they are? Or you could even try churning your own butter. Bye, till next time.